I'm Adrian Laurie, and this is Keys to Change, where I offer you concepts and techniques for personal transformation. The topic of today's episode is how to address physical tension, reintegrating mind and body. I'm going to share with you a technique for addressing physical tension that can be very effective for digesting, understanding, and integrating the information that is inside tension that you may be feeling. So it's a powerful technique. It's pretty profound. And let me start by saying the reason that I'm telling you about this is because I, earlier in my life, did not enjoy my body very much. I was very kind of disconnected from it. And now I enjoy it very much. And I got here through using this technique largely. So if I can do it, I feel you can do it, and I want to tell you about it. Okay? Now, the name of the technique, the name I would use for it is tension exaggeration, but it's not what you might be thinking. This is not the technique where you tense all your muscles and then relax them in order to relax. This is a different technique. The origin of this technique, as far as I can tell, is Wilhelm Reich, who was the originator of body psychotherapy. And for sure, this technique is as much a psychological technique as it is a physical technique. Okay? So I'm going to tell you how it works. There's 3 steps. And I'm going to first name the 3 steps, and then I'll explain them. So step 1 is going to be sitting or lying down in a comfortable place and then identifying where's the most tense part of your body. Step 2 is going to be exaggerating that tension, contracting the muscles in that area where you're tense by like 20 to 50% more. And then step 3 is going to be asking the question, what might I be doing? So let me explain each of those steps. Step 1, locating where's the most tense part of my body. Fairly simple, and don't overcomplicate it. Just your subjective idea, where's the most tense part. It just doesn't need to be precise or scientific. It's just subjectively, where would you say is most tense? The shoulders, maybe your legs, maybe in the area of your eyes, whatever it may be. Okay, then step 2 is going to be to exaggerate that tension. So what does that mean? You're going to contract the muscles in that area that you just named. And once again, this doesn't need to be like super precise, just kind of subjectively. The muscles in that general vicinity, you're going to contract them more than they're already contracted. And you do it by about 20 to 50% more contraction, okay? So you're exaggerating the tension. Now, step 3, this is the one that requires a decent amount of explanation. You're going to ask the question, what might I be doing? And so the purpose here is actually to identify the context of the tension, to make some sense of the tension. So we do that by asking, what might I be doing in doing this tension? And I would say it's less of a kind of a logical or rational type of question and more of an intuitive sort of question. You want to kind of see what comes to you. But let me kind of lay out a few possibilities. So I would say there's 3 things that a tension can be. I don't know if this is an exhaustive list, but it covers quite a lot. And once again, I'll name what these possibilities are first, and then I'll explain them. So a tension can represent 1, a frozen defensive movement from the past. Okay? It can be a frozen defensive movement. 2, it can be an impulse to a postural change. It can be an impulse to a better postural alignment. And 3, it can be an impulse to a certain type of movement or exercise. Okay? Now, I'll go through and I'll explain each one of those. So the first possibility is a tension can be, it's kind of frozen or habitual defensive movement. So one example, this is just one example. Let's say sometime in the past, maybe when you were a child, let's say you were crying, but you were getting negative feedback about crying, and you felt compelled to stop the crying. And how do you get yourself to stop crying? Because that's sort of a natural, instinctive process, a movement process, these convulsions and what have you. And there's water coming out of the eyes. It's a natural organic process. How do you stop such a thing? Well, you've got to kind of tense yourself up. So it may be that you did that, and then that became habitual, and you forgot about it, but it's got kind of locked in your body, and sometimes will manifest itself in this form of tension, right? And what it is it's a locked up defensive posture. Okay. And so that could come to you when you ask that question, what might I be doing? Oh my God, I'm holding back tears. It's as if I'm holding back tears. That might come to you. Okay. Now that's just one possibility. It could be that you're doing everything you can to kind of hide from view. You don't want someone to see you or find you. Or you could be holding back anger or some kind of aggression, right? There's various possibilities here as what the defensive posture may be. Something that I like to use sometimes when I'm showing this exercise to clients is when we're at that question, what might you be doing? I'll say, imagine a scene in a comic book. And then there you are in this scene doing this tension, whatever it is that you're doing. What's going on in that scene? What's the environment? Where are you? What is it that you're doing? Are there any other characters in this scene? Right? This is to evoke the kind of imagination. And sometimes a client will say, oh, yeah, I see what's going on in this scene. It's this, that, and the other, right? And, we don't need to have historical accuracy here. It may be that what's in the scene is I'm hiding in a bush from a dragon, something that is imaginal or fantastical. It may be good enough for hooking into the original context of attention. We can assume that when something like that clicks, it's some kind of symbol or metaphor for something that we experienced, right? Again, we don't need to know precise historical information here. It's more something that kind of clicks and makes sense. And in this process, when something does click, you say, oh my God, this is what I'm doing, or it's as if I'm doing such, and that really makes sense. What can happen is that tension begins to dissolve, right? It's not something you do. You don't relax it. It dissolves kind of on its own, even while you're continuing the contraction. And when that happens, it's really a very wonderful thing. It's a release of this tension. It's very satisfying. Okay, now that's one possibility. Attention can represent a kind of old, frozen, defensive posture. There are other possibilities. Attention can represent an impulse in the body to restore a more balanced body structure or posture. So one example, you've got, let's say, I'm most tense in my kind of upper back. And then when you exaggerate the tension, your chest goes out and your shoulders go back. And then you say, what might I be doing? And you kind of realize perhaps, gosh, this actually feels kind of good. My body feels more open. It feels like energy is moving through the body more freely. And so the tension may actually be the body trying to get into its better structure, a better posture. So if that's the case, just notice it. Just appreciate it, enjoy it. And then when you're done with the exercise, let it go. And you may find that your posture starts to improve in a natural way. Personally, I don't like to be too self-conscious about like doing a particular posture. So, when I would find these sorts of things, my preference would be, okay, notice that, enjoy it, but then let it go. But you might find that you're holding yourself in a different way or moving in a different way very naturally. Okay. So that's the second thing it can be. There's a third thing it can be, which is it can be an impulse. Attention can represent an impulse to movement or exercise. So the way this works is, for example, you feel a tension kind of in your chest, arms, and you say, what might I be doing? And what comes to you is, I'm kind of preparing to push something in front of me or to lift something with my arms. Right? And you realize that's what actually feels pretty good, to push and lift something. So this might be an impulse to a certain type of movement, which you could satisfy, in this example, by doing like a bench press. right? Or another example, you might feel a tension in your kind of like upper legs or glutes, and you say, what might I be doing? And what comes to you is, as I'm preparing to run. And you realize, gosh, it would feel really good to run. And so this might be an impulse to go for a jog. The body does want to be active. The body is designed to do things. And it's nice to realize we do actually want to do physical things. And sometimes we've gotten disconnected from that. It's natural impulses to use the body, to move the body, even to do difficult things with the body. And so this can be really wonderful. If you get in touch with these sorts of impulses, it can be an inspiration for different kinds of exercise practices. And when you do those exercises, you're much more likely to really be in the body. It's sort of like inside the sensory motor system, rather than just kind of like trying to get your body to do this or that, as if it's like a dead machine that you're just kind of like pushing around. Here you are really inside your body, and it's going to make exercise a very enjoyable and interesting process. Okay. So this is a tension exaggeration process. To summarize, you're going to locate the most tense part of the body, exaggerate that tension by 20 to 50%, and then you ask the question, what might I be doing? And you're open to the possibility that you're doing some kind of defensive movement. You're open to the possibility that you might be trying to reestablish a more open structure or posture. And you're open to the possibility that you might have an impulse to move or exercise in certain ways, which can be an inspiration. Let me add that sometimes this process is kind of not instant, because sometimes when you ask, what might I be doing, nothing quite comes to you. But I've found that, sometimes when that's the case, if you kind of stick with it, by which I mean maybe you do it like once a day or twice a day or whatever it is, after a little while, sometimes something where you weren't getting an answer, all of a sudden an answer does come. And so, this might be something that you experiment with for a few days or a week, and, just see how it goes and, see how it affects you. I hope this is useful to you. You're welcome to leave your thoughts in the comments, and I welcome your criticisms or critiques. You can visit me online at adrianlaurie.com or by following the link in the description if you'd ever like to set up a private counseling or coaching consultation with me. And thank you for listening.